All right, hi everybody, welcome to the Neon Museum. I'm Mitch, education specialist here, and today we're going to be taking a tour of the Boneyard, focusing on Tim Burton, but along the way we're going to see a lot of the rest of the collection as well. First thing, you probably have a question about social distancing. Be assured, the museum is closed right now. We're working with a skeleton crew just to make sure everything stays safe. Amanda, our social media manager, is helping me today, and she's a comfortable distance away. That's why I'm wearing this amplifier, so that she can hear me from way out there. So thank you. Let me tell you a little bit about Tim Burton, how it came to be. Tim Burton's people came to us and proposed this exhibition, and we were flattered and thrilled to be able to put this on. This is the first time in 10 years, approximately 10 years, that Tim Burton's art has been shown in this country. And it's called Las Vegas. It's based on Tim Burton's childhood memories of Las Vegas. He's from Burbank, California, and his family used to come here a lot and take him when he was a child in the 1960s. And then as a young man, he came back. He really liked the strange vibe that Las Vegas had, and he was a little bit different, so he really appreciated us. And then, of course, in 1995, he came back to film Mars Attacks, and you'll see references to all that here. Now, the symbol of the show is behind us. It's the Las Vegas sign. And for those of you who are Las Vegas fans, you might notice the shape of this resembles what? The old Dune sign, right, from 1964. And if you're really a Vegas buff, you might also notice the stars here. These are derived from the old Stardust sign, 1968, one of the most iconic signs in Las Vegas. Now, this sign looks like it's old. You can see how it's dinged here, how there's a bend. But if you get real close, you can see how it's weathered, the paint is peeling. This is actually a brand new sign that Tim Burton made for this exhibition. Actually, Hartlauer made it for this exhibition, but Tim's design. Now the light bulbs. When we put this together originally, we hadn't thought about the light bulbs, and they went in and they were all shiny and new. And Tim Burton came and said, this will never do. And so we came up with this idea of diluting glue, dipping the bulbs in it, and rolling them in the chat down here. So now they look appropriately dusty and dirty. Now over here, if we go to the left, you might have to get back a little bit, is the neon grid. And this is based on a lot of Tim Burton's childhood memories. Now in the center, you'll see there are 3 seahorses. These are based on seahorses that were at the fountain, at the pool. They were fountains at the dunes when Tim was a little boy. Of course, they're enormous. He's doing all this from the viewpoint of a child, and so everything's much bigger than it is in real life. And if we scooch over a little bit, you can see on the lower left, there's a little boy. Can you see him? He's got crazy hair. That's supposed to be Tim Burton. And then to the far left of the sign, you'll see a woman with spirals in her eyes. That's Spiral Eye Girl. And she's supposed to represent the hypnotic, seductive nature of Las Vegas. I would definitely not get on her bad side. You can see she's shooting lightning bolts or laser beams at the tank. Probably an ex-boyfriend. And as we go over a little bit, you'll see the Area 51 Motel. Area 51 is a semi-secret military installation where purportedly there's a lot of alien activity. There really is no Area 51 Motel, or at least if there is, it's a secret and I don't know about it. On the other side, you can see if you go all the way to the bottom, you see there's a little tiny face. Can you see her lipstick? Yeah, that's Alien Showgirl. And that's her hair flowing out there with all of these spaceships inside. So pretty soon we're all going to have hair that big. All right, I'm going to turn around here, and we're going to take a look at the hard rock guitar. So this is our largest restored sign. It might be one of the largest restored signs around. It's 82 feet high. As I said, it comes from the Hard Rock Cafe. This sign was unveiled in the 1990s, and it was restored with the help of Yesco, Young Electric Sign Company, and the donations of a lot of our fans to raise approximately $350,000 to get this restored and to keep a fund so that we could keep it restored. All right, follow me on down. From here, we're going to go into the boneyard. It's a circle, and it follows Las Vegas history, geographically and historically. And when you go in here, Tim Burton was very hands-on. And so a lot of the objects he made just for this exhibition. There are some that are from prior exhibitions, but he repurposed them and gave them a Las Vegas storyline. So they're hidden all throughout here. The area we're going into is the old downtown area. The beginning of Las Vegas makes sense. And let's see if we find anything that Tip hid along the way here. So follow me on in. Oh, yeah, these guys here. Little green men, Martians, right? From Mars Attacks. So these are not from the movie. They were made specifically for this exhibition. They look rather ferocious. Kind of looks like we're standing between them and the last roll of toilet paper in the grocery store. They're actually very nice. We haven't heard of any incidents. They don't touch the signs. But again, Mars Attacks was based on a set of trading cards that Tim Burton had when he was a kid. And they were a little too violent for the general public. He loved them. He turned them into the movie. And you might, if you've seen it, recognize some of our signs. The movie was not filmed at this boneyard. It was filmed at the Yesco boneyard. Like a lot of sign companies, Yesco used to maintain a space where they take old signs and they refurbish them or cannibalize them for parts. Then in the mid-1990s, they built a new building on that site. Eventually, those signs came here. So even today, about 1 out of every 5 signs comes from the old Yesco boneyard. Now, on this side, we have this big yellow sign. It's round, 3-dimensional. They call it a bullnose. And this is from the Golden Nugget. This went up in the 1970s. It has the year 1905 on it. Kind of curious why it has 1905 on it. The sign's from the 1970s. 1905 is when Las Vegas started. We were a railroad stop. That didn't last too long. Fortunately, they built the Hoover Dam, which was completed in 1935, laid the groundwork for subsequent tourism after the war. So 1905 is kind of our birthday. By the way, you should know, this signage at one time, when it originally went up, this came a little later, but most of it went up in 1961. They wrapped the entire building in neon. This was done by a Yesco designer named Kermit Wayne. And it later became known as a style, the decorated shed, where you take a plain old building and you just gussy it up with neon. And that symbolized Las Vegas, especially in the 50s and 60s. All right, follow me on in. We're going to take a look at this script sign. You can see it's beautiful pink and white letters here. This is from the Moulin Rouge. All right, if you're trying to make out Moulin Rouge in this sign, you won't. The letters have been rearranged. The way they've been rearranged, the center section now looks like it says, "In love." Everybody go, ah, right? This is a popular spot for photos, especially for weddings and on Valentine's Day. So keep that in your back pocket for later. This sign is very important and dear to us for 2 reasons. First of all, the woman who designed it, Betty Willis. If you haven't heard of Betty, you know her most famous sign. Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas, 1959. And before she passed away, she actually visited us and was reunited with her sign. The other reason why this sign is so important is because in 1955, the Moulin Rouge becomes the first major casino in Las Vegas to be integrated. A lot of people don't know Las Vegas was segregated. Black entertainers like Sammy Davis Jr., Nat King Cole, could not go in the front door. They entered through the back door, they performed, and then they had to leave. They could not stay in the hotel, they could not eat meals there. They generally lived on the west side, which is where the Moulin Rouge was. Well, the Moulin Rouge took advantage of that. When all the shows were finished on the Strip, they put on their own show at 2:30 in the morning. They called it the Breakfast Show, and it was sort of the in place to be for a while. Didn't last very long the first time, only about 6 months. But in 1960, it was the site of a meeting. The NAACP had threatened to stage a civil rights march to end this segregation. Everybody sat down at the Moulin Rouge, and they came up with an agreement where they agreed to desegregate or at least stop discrimination against hotel patrons. So, great sign for us. Unfortunately, the Moulin Rouge no longer exists, but we have this beautiful sign to remember it and the stories that went with it. All right, follow me here, and I'm going to show you a little more Tim Burton. These guys, they're bugs hanging from the rafters here. And you might wonder what they're doing here. Tim has provided us with an explanation. It's right over here on the right. These are pieces that were made previously, and they've been given a Vegas backstory. So these bugs had something they all could agree on. Nothing tastes better than an old piece of neon. And this sign, by the way, is done in Tim Burton's handwriting. And you might notice, even though it's new, looks a little dirty. That's because we took the paint that they used to black out the neon letters, we diluted it, put a couple coats over this, and now it looks appropriately grimy. If we go back to my friends for just a sec, this guy here is my favorite. He is the only character in this whole exhibition that is smiling. And that's, I think, because he's so well fed. If you look at his friends, they're not nearly as happy, and they're a whole lot, well, at least this guy's a lot skinnier. I don't think they learned the cardinal rule for eating neon, and that is, before you start, you better unplug the sign. So, follow me on down and take a look at some of our collection here. On my left, this is from Binion's Horseshoe, which is still around. They've sold out the horseshoe names, and now it's Binion's. I will put this in my pocket. Benny Binion is someone we should probably all be grateful to. He came up with complimentary drinks. Well, he didn't come up with it, but he popularized it. Also, comps. He used to say, if you want to get rich, make a little guy feel like a big guy. Still a good philosophy today. Let's come down to Flamingo Wing here. We'll see some more of those later. Over here, Fitzgerald's. This is probably our brightest sign in this section. This was donated to us in working condition. Fitzgerald's was an Irish-themed casino. It used to be where the D is now. If a lot of you have been coming to Vegas for a long, long time, it was the Sundance back in the 1980s. Behind it, we've got the Lady Luck. And the Lady Luck today is the Downtown Grand. If any of you have seen a movie, it came out in the 90s. It was called Vegas Vacation. Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, and Chevy Chase's daughter comes to the Boneyard with her cousin Vicky, and Cousin Vicky ends up dancing on this sign. So if you haven't seen the movie, check it out, and you will clearly recognize the Lady Luck sign. Let's come on down here to the left. Nice yellow and red sign. You ever wonder why so many signs are red and yellow? It really grabs your attention. Think about it. McDonald's, all the fast food restaurants, and a lot of Vegas signs. This one's from Sassy Sally's. It was designed by a master sign designer. His name was Charles Barnard. He actually wrote the book. He literally wrote the foundational book on Las Vegas and sign design. His friend to the museum who passed away not long ago. So this is his design. This was on Fremont Street. Has the old-fashioned Western lettering. That's kind of a throwback. By the time the sign was made in the 80s, we were getting away from the cowboy themes. But if you look, there's another yellow and red sign here, kind of beat up, kind of old looking. Right, Beetlejuice. If any of you have seen the Tim Burton film Beetlejuice, this looks like the sign that was hanging over Beetlejuice the ghost's grave. And this is a brand new sign. They worked very hard to make it look old and beat up. And you notice, if you're a fan of the movie, it says Beetlejuice 2 times. If you don't know why it only says it 2 times, you're going to have to check out the movie. By the way, we're working on another blog post about Las Vegas, the Boneyard, and movies. If any of you have favorite movies, especially ones that feature the Boneyard, let us know. By the way, I forgot to mention, when we were talking about the Martians. Oh, I did. That was filmed in the old Yesko Boneyard. And this is actually, this is curated. This is ADA compliance. It's a little different than a boneyard, but it really gives you the sense of what those old boneyards were like. We're going to leave downtown. We're going to hit the motels here. So as we're turning the corner, by the way, this is kind of cute. 83 sleeves here. Yeah, that's not graffiti. That's the sign painter's signature. A lot of times they'll find a place to squirrel it away. When this sign was standing up, of course you couldn't see it, but sleeves knew it was there. All right, follow me on around, and we're going to take a look here at the yucca. Now, the yucca is a 1950s motel sign. It was also from downtown Las Vegas. The yucca is a plant that grows here in the Mojave Desert, and we have the neon version of it. This is absolutely amazing. If any of you know about neon bending, take a look at those curves, how hard it was to do that. They work over open gas flames, gently bending sections of neon. They actually have to blow air in to keep the tube from creasing. So imagine doing all that and getting this form just right. This is really a masterwork of neon. So we're pleased we could restore it. The neon is restored. We partially restored the paint. We wanted to let people know what it looked like, so this just got a light sanding, and then there was a protective coat put over it, but the neon is brand new. As we turn the corner here, some more motels, and I'd like to talk, by the way, color TV. Don't need to really advertise that anymore. Nor do you need to advertise air conditioning. That's what refrigeration stands for. If you're interested in those old conveniences that are no longer around that you see on some of these signs, we have a blog post all about that, so definitely check out our website. This fella here is from the Nevada Motel. It's a little difficult with the sun behind him, but that is Vegas Vic. He's the same character as the giant sign that's down on Fremont Street in front of the Pioneer, or what used to be the Pioneer. He is a character that was created by the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce in the 1940s, so there are multiple versions of him. Now on the other side, there's the Chief Hotel Court. And by the way, this guy is from the 1950s. The Chief Hotel Court, Native American, he's from the 40s. The Hotel Court opened up in 1939. Had a little bit of an issue with him. I mean, that is a pretty stereotypical Native American image, but we consulted. We actually had an expert in our backyard at UNLV, and he said as long as we talk about the context, that this was a popular image back in the 1940s when Native Americans were romanticized. Unfortunately, he kind of erases the presence of the actual Native Americans who live here, the Paiutes, and ironically, this is an electric sign at the time that the tribe, the colony, had not yet gotten electricity. But beautiful sign nonetheless. I want to point out as we're coming down here, these rungs, this is from La Concha, and if you pull back, you can see the shape on any of these. It's shell-shaped. La Concha means shell in Spanish, and that is actually our lobby now from the old La Concha Motel. But these rungs were used to climb up and change the light bulbs. Can't do that anymore. OSHA won't let you do that. To give you an idea how dangerous that was, this sign was on this part that was on another sign that was raised off the ground. It's 8 stories high. Amanda, if you come on over, you see the top of the Hard Rock guitar? That's 82 feet, so that's about 8 stories. You were all the way up there hanging on to just these rods, changing the light bulbs. Not for me. So as we come around, we're going to see another surprise. Big surprise, or a little surprise. This is Boy with Nails in His Eyes. This is a Tim Burton creation. It was created previously, and that's one of those Easter eggs I talked about that Tim figured out where he wanted it to go, and he would just surprise you as you turn corners. He's got curly hair there, a little bit like Tim. All these creatures are autobiographical representations of Tim, and he thought, well, I come to Las Vegas, why shouldn't I take all my characters with me? He's from a book, as are a lot of these little guys, called The Melancholy Death of Oyster Boy. I believe came out in the 90s. And so there's boy with nails in his eyes. And if you turn the corner, you might see an eye staring out at you here. Let's see who that belongs to if we come around. Boy, it's Jimmy the Hideous Penguin Boy. Given this moniker by his so-called friends, we just call him Penguin Boy. And he's been given a Vegas backstory too. I have a vague memory from when I was a boy. I worked in the circus for Siegfried and Roy, of course the magicians that used to perform with their white tigers. So he found employment. Let's keep going. We're going to leave the motels and we're going to head into the small business area. As we do, we find another Tim Burton sign. All right, so we have this smiling, slightly spooky clown. And in one hand he's holding a bottle, and in the other hand he's holding a gun. And this is called Guns and Booze. And this is based on an actual experience. Tim was driving around, or being driven around, and he saw this store. And it advertised alcohol and firearms. He thought that was pretty unusual. I remember that store. I think I do. I think it's the same store. They actually had a pharmacy too. So their sign said guns, drugs, and booze. What more could you want, right? All right, follow me on in. Now we're in the small business area. By the way, I'll point out this sign is animated. You can see how it's flashing on and off. And we have another animated sign. Follow me on down. This is from Steiner Cleaners. We call him Mr. Happy Shirt, right? This is from the 1960s, and you can see his arms are going up and down. He's very happy to be a clean shirt. And he was designed by Steiner's daughter when she was a young girl, early teens, maybe even earlier, but beautiful sign, just really kind of joyous. And as you turn around, we have this guy from the 1980s. He's from a pool bar called Doc and Eddie's. And he was made in Montana. This is actually a chain of pool bars that started in Montana. He was sculpted by J.P. Pendergrass, and he considered himself an artist. You can see he even put knuckles on this guy. He's got individual strands of hair. One thing they did to him when he was down here, this is a flannel shirt. You can see how it is got squares in it. They put palm trees on it. So I don't think that pleased the artist very much. He might have the only long sleeve Hawaiian shirt in the entire world. And he's growing out his mullet. You can see there. I think we're all growing out our mullets right now. So follow me on around.
Mitch, do you want to get some water?
Oh.
Do you need some water?
Yeah, I'm going to have some water. That's okay, guys. I'm also going to duff my jacket because I can't decide whether it wants to rain or be summer here. We are prepared for just about anything here.
We got plenty to look at.
Yeah, what you're looking at here margarita baby there. You see the lime slice. It was from a Mexican restaurant that also served pizza. Nail Portal Theater. That was one of the early movie theaters in Las Vegas and has a claim on the first air-conditioned building in Las Vegas. Opened up in the 1920s, and the air conditioning went in shortly after that. So follow me on around. All right, we're still, we have some small businesses here. Now we have restaurants. And we have the Red Barn. signs from the 1970s. This opened up in the 1950s, and it was originally an antique store. It became a bar in the 60s, and then in the 70s, it became one of the first openly gay bars in Las Vegas. Now on the other side, if you come around, all right, what is this guy? If you're of a certain age, you're going to recognize him right off. Otherwise, you might not. This is a milkman. This is Andy Anderson. He's from Anderson Dairy. He went up in 1956, and I particularly admire him because he was made in the 1950s and he's still working. All right, come on around. This sign doesn't look like much, but it's really important to us. This is the oldest sign on display. We might have one in the collection that's older, but this is the oldest one that's out here in the boneyard. Comes from a restaurant called the Green Shack. And the Green Shack's owner, Maddie Jones, came to Las Vegas in the 1920s, so she found an enterprising way to make money. She sold fried chicken out the windows of her house, and to accompany it, she served bootleg whiskey. Now later, she moved the site of the restaurant. This sign probably isn't from the Prohibition era. You can see they're advertising cocktails. Not smart to advertise alcohol if it's going to get you arrested. So this probably came after the repeal in 1933, and there are at least anecdotal reports of it being around in 1939. So it's a 1930 sign. Over here, we have House of Lords. This was the gourmet room at the old Sahara, and that was in Mars Attacks. So if you see Mars Attacks, the scenes that were filmed at the old Yesco Boneyard, there's one where Danny DeVito plays a lawyer. His character's name is Rude Gambler in the credits, and he's kind of an obnoxious attorney. I know for some of you that sounds redundant. There are attorneys who are very nice, but Danny wasn't, and he ends up getting vaporized by a Martian who was standing in front of the sign. Then Annette Bening took out the Martian. So check out that scene and you'll remember this sign. Now, we're headed to the strip section here, and around the corner we have the skull from Treasure Island, opened up in 1993, and later dropped the family-friendly theme, and now it's called the TI. But Tim thought this would be a good place to bring some pirates of his own. So let's look around the corner here. And there are two of his creations. These were actually sketches originally in the 1980s, and for a movie project that was never completed. And so he thought they would be great here, having a conversation with the Treasure Island skull. Little pirate party. They don't have names, although I've given them my own names. I think at the back there we have Lemonhead, and up front we have Edward Scissorshead. All right, let's go around. We'll see if we can find any more friends of theirs. And as we turn the corner here, three more pirates here. And I think they're a monument to bad living and bad dentistry. In the back there, the guy with the bumpy nose and the parrot on his shoulder. And over here, this guy carrying the sword in these incredibly spindly arms. This hunchback with his spindly legs. This is really something you see a lot in Tim Burton's art. You have these physically impossible creatures with these huge bodies and these little tiny limbs. It wouldn't work under the rules of physics, but under the rules of imagination, it works just fine. As we go around, there's another flamingo wing there. You see the pink, and also back here. A lot of people think the flamingo was started by Bugsy Siegel. Actually, Billy Wilkerson started it, and he ran out of money, so he went to Bugsy and his friends, and Billy quickly left the project. It's long associated with Bugsy, although he really wasn't in the picture more than about a year or so. Below here, wedding information. We do a lot of weddings here in Las Vegas. We still do. Make it very easy to get married, no waiting period, no blood tests. So back when a lot of states had that, some still do. this became a wedding mecca. We also, of course, have famously easy divorces. It was a very low standard for the time, back in 1931 when they reduced the period you had to stay here to become a resident, and then you could go get your divorce. So people would stay in divorce ranches. They'd meet their new spouse while they were waiting for their divorce and head on off. Another wedding sign around the corner here from Chapel by the Courthouse. Now we're heading in what a lot of people think is the best shot of the boneyard here with this stardust. So if you look up all the way, this is part of the 1968 Stardust sign. Remember we talked about that earlier? Where were those stars? They were the Las Vegas sign, right? Well, this is part of that sign that went up in 1988. And if you follow it along, it goes all the way from where this Aladdin's lamp is, all the way down past the Riviera, past the Stardust lights here. That's 3 sections of it. There were actually 9. This sign, when it was up, was 188 feet tall. In 1968, that made it the tallest sign in the world. And in front of it, we have the flashing stardust. This was recently rebulbed, and it's working again. This is not the lettering that was on top of the 188-foot sign, but it is the same style that went up originally. And as we head on down, above it, there's the Riviera. That sign was also recently rebulbed. When it opened up in the 1950s, the Riviera was the first skyscraper on the Strip. They didn't think that tall buildings would work back then. They thought the desert sand, the soil was too soft and they would sink. They proved them wrong. And look what's happened since then. So as we continue on down, behind us here we've got the dune sign. It's a little hard to see. Can you see this arabesque here? Yeah, remember we saw that shape with the Las Vegas sign originally? So back in 1964, when this sign went up, this is just a parking lot version of the big sign. It was 180 feet high. 1964, that made it the tallest sign in the world, and it won its designer, Lee Clay, a major award. Really, another one of the iconic Las Vegas signs of all time. So, if you turn around, did you also get the Sahara? Yeah, notice the camels there. The Sahara used to be the Sahara, then it was the SLS, now it's the Sahara again. And I believe this is a 1990s sign. The sign in front was much larger than this. I mean, this is pretty big size. Notice how big I am on the sign behind me. On the Sahara in front, each one of the camels was the size of this entire sign, so it was just a ginormous sign. Let's go visit our friend here. We're back again. We've kind of come full circle. We're back with the Martians. And so, unfortunately, our time together right now is coming to an end. I would say if you want more information, if you want to know more about our signs, definitely go to our website. We've got blog posts, we have films, we've got lecture panels, and we're always coming up with more content. If you have ideas for us, things you'd like to know more about, things you want to hear about, definitely send those suggestions to us. So with that, thank you for coming today. Look forward to seeing you again very soon. And meanwhile, thank you.